With just 1 month left until Ramadan 2025, have you started thinking about how you'll prepare? Most of us wait until the first day to set our intentions, only to realize we're unprepared for the spiritual and emotional journey ahead. But what if you could start now and enter Ramadan feeling ready to make the most of every moment? In this video, I'll share 5 powerful habits you can begin today to transform your heart, strengthen your connection with Allah, and set the foundation for your most rewarding Ramadan yet. Sitting at his desk, Ibrahim stared at a blank piece of paper. He felt the weight of so many failed attempts in previous Ramadans. This time, he wanted it to be different, but he didn't know where to start. Then, he remembered something his grandmother always said: "Every action begins with intention, and intentions are what Allah looks at most." Taking a deep breath, he wrote down a single sentence: "This Ramadan, I want to come closer to Allah through worship, gratitude, and service." It was simple, but as he stared at those words, they gave him a sense of direction he hadn't felt in years. That one moment shifted everything for Ibrahim. For the first time, his goals for Ramadan weren't just about fasting or completing rituals. They were about realigning his heart with Allah. And the best part, every small step he took would now carry the weight of a sincere intention, no matter how small. With his intentions set, Ibrahim felt a flicker of hope. But as he looked around his room, his eyes fell on the dusty Quran sitting on a shelf. Guilt crept into his heart. How long had it been since he last opened it? He remembered the days when his grandmother would recite verses every morning, her voice filled with peace. He missed that connection. "I'll start small," he thought. Picking up the Quran, he made a simple promise: just 1 page a day. He opened it, and the familiar words felt like a warm embrace. The first verse he read reminded him of Allah's mercy. "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." Those words struck him deeply. They weren't just a verse. They felt like a personal message from Allah, reassuring him that his small efforts mattered. The next day, Ibrahim kept his promise. 1 page turned into 2 as he found himself drawn into the meanings of the words. He didn't just read, he began to reflect. What does this verse mean for me? How can I live by these words? These questions made his recitation feel alive, like a conversation with Allah. As the days passed, the Quran became more than a ritual. It became his refuge. When he felt stressed, he turned to its verses. When doubts clouded his mind, he found clarity in its guidance. He even started keeping a notebook to jot down the ayahs that touched his heart the most. What surprised him most was how this small habit began to transform other areas of his life. His heart felt lighter, his prayers more focused, and his connection to Allah grew stronger. All from a simple commitment to 1 page a day. By the end of the first week, Ibrahim realized something profound. It wasn't about how much he read, but how deeply he connected with what he read. And that connection gave him a newfound sense of peace, preparing him for the spiritual journey ahead. As Ibrahim's days passed, he noticed a gap in his spiritual routine, a void that even his growing connection with the Quran couldn't entirely fill. He realized it was his salah. Though he performed it 5 times a day, it felt mechanical, rushed, and disconnected. He would stand, recite, bow, and prostrate, but his heart felt absent. One night, while reflecting on a verse he had read earlier, he came across a quote from a scholar. "Salah is not a task to complete, it's a meeting with the one who gave you everything." These words struck him deeply. Had he been treating his salah as a chore rather than the sacred opportunity it was? That evening, as he prepared for Maghrib, he decided to make a change, not for all his prayers at once, but just this one. He performed wudu with care, letting the cool water remind him of Allah's mercy, washing away his mistakes. As he stood on the prayer mat, he whispered, "This is my moment to connect with you, Ya Allah." When he raised his hands and said, "Allahu Akbar," he focused completely on what he was saying. For the first time in years, the weight of those words, "Allah is the greatest," settled in his heart. As he began reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, he slowed down, absorbing the meanings of each verse. Praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. He felt a deep sense of awe and gratitude, imagining all the blessings Allah had given him, his health, his family, and even this chance to pray with sincerity. When he went into ruku, bowing, he lingered, whispering, "Subhana Rabbiyal Adhim, glory be to my Lord, the Most Great," not out of habit, but out of a newfound reverence. And when he placed his forehead on the ground in sujud, he felt tears well up. It was as though every worry, every guilt, and every burden he had been carrying poured out onto that prayer mat. He whispered, "Ya Allah, forgive me, guide me, and let my heart always feel your presence." That prayer felt like more than an act of worship. It felt like a reunion. The next day, Ibrahim committed to continuing this practice. He didn't overwhelm himself by trying to transform every salah at once. Instead, he focused on one prayer each day, choosing the one he felt most relaxed during. Sometimes it was Fajr, with its serene stillness before the world woke up. Other times, it was Isha, when he could reflect on his day. As he continued, he noticed subtle but profound changes. He became more mindful about preparing for Salah, setting aside distractions beforehand. His du'as grew longer, more heartfelt. Even his posture in prayer felt more deliberate, as though he truly stood before his Creator. One moment stood out vividly for him. One evening, as he prayed Maghrib, a thought crossed his mind. What if this is my last Salah? It wasn't a fearful thought. It was a reminder of how precious each moment with Allah was. From that day on, he approached every Salah with a new perspective. This habit began to impact other areas of his life too. He became more patient in conversations, more deliberate in his actions, and more aware of Allah's presence throughout his day. Salah, once a rushed obligation, had become his sanctuary. As Ramadan approached, Ibrahim felt a deep sense of gratitude for the change. By focusing on praying with presence, he had unlocked a source of peace and clarity that prepared him to embrace the sacred month with a heart fully attuned to Allah. As Ibrahim reflected on his growing spiritual routine, he realized something profound. He had spent so much time thinking about what he needed to fix in his life, yet he had rarely paused to appreciate all the things that were already good. His heart had been so focused on the struggles, the shortcomings, and the unanswered prayers that he'd overlooked the countless blessings surrounding him every day. One evening, as he sat quietly after Salah, a memory of his grandmother came rushing back to him. She used to say, "A thankful heart is always at peace." He remembered how, no matter the circumstances, she would always begin her du'as by thanking Allah for everything, her health, her family, even the strength to endure hardships. Inspired by this, Ibrahim decided he would try something new. Each night he would sit down and list everything he could think of that he was grateful for, no matter how small it seemed. That first night, it felt difficult. His mind kept wandering back to his worries and the things he still felt were missing in his life. But he pushed through, starting with the basics. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for another chance to witness Ramadan. I'm grateful for the roof over my head. As he wrote, something unexpected happened. His heart began to feel lighter. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't focused on what he didn't have. He was fully aware of what he did. Over the next few days, this simple practice began to change how Ibrahim saw his daily life. He started noticing blessings in the smallest of moments. A cool breeze on a hot day, a kind smile from a stranger, the quiet moments of reflection after Salah. All of these became signs of Allah's mercy that he had been too distracted to see before. One afternoon, as Ibrahim walked to the masjid, he saw a man sitting on the sidewalk. The man was elderly, his clothes tattered, and his hands trembling slightly as he held a small cup for donations. But what struck Ibrahim wasn't the man's condition, it was his face. He was smiling, his lips moving in what seemed like whispered dhikr. Ibrahim approached him and gave him a small amount of money. The man looked up with eyes full of gratitude and said, "May Allah give you more than you have given me." That moment stayed with Ibrahim. He thought about how this man, who had so little, still found it in his heart to be thankful. It made Ibrahim realize that gratitude wasn't about having everything, it was about seeing Allah's blessings, even in the midst of challenges. This realization pushed Ibrahim to take his habit further. Gratitude, he decided, couldn't just stay in his heart. It needed to be shown in his actions. He began looking for ways to share the blessings he had. He reached out to friends he hadn't spoken to in months, simply to thank them for the role they had played in his life. He helped his neighbors with small errands, smiled at strangers, and made extra dua for people he knew were struggling. As days turned into weeks, this habit of gratitude began to transform Ibrahim from within. The more he focused on Allah's blessings, the less he found himself complaining. Even on days when things didn't go as planned, he reminded himself of the countless other ways Allah had shown him mercy. And on the hardest days, he would say, "Alhamdulillah for the tests, because they remind me to turn back to Allah." One night, as he prepared for bed, he looked back at the notebook where he had been recording his blessings. The pages were nearly full. As he flipped through them, he felt overwhelmed, not by the trials he had faced, but by the realization of just how much Allah had given him, even in moments when he wasn't looking. By the time Ramadan arrived, Ibrahim's heart was in a place of deep gratitude. Each day felt like an opportunity to thank Allah, whether through his prayers, his words, or his actions. Gratitude had become more than a habit. It had become a lens through which he saw the world. And with that, he felt truly prepared to embrace the sacred month ahead, knowing that every moment, no matter how small, was a gift from Allah. The days leading up to Ramadan were filled with reflection for Ibrahim. His heart felt lighter, his connection with Allah stronger, and his soul more at peace. Yet there was a small, nagging thought in the back of his mind, something he couldn't quite put into words. As he sat after Isha prayer one evening, it finally came to him. Have I done anything for others? Ibrahim realized that while he had worked on strengthening his relationship with Allah, he hadn't yet considered the people around him. He thought about Ramadan's true essence, a time not only for worship, but also for building compassion, unity, and generosity. He recalled his mother's words from years ago. Ramadan isn't complete until you've brought ease to someone else's life. The next day, Ibrahim decided to act. He started small, looking for ways to serve those closest to him. He began by helping his family with household tasks, something he had neglected in his busy routine. He offered to take over his younger sister's chores for the day, surprising her with a smile and a playful comment, "Consider it my Ramadan prep." The simple gesture left her beaming, and Ibrahim felt an unexpected warmth in his heart. Later that evening, as he was walking home from the masjid, he noticed his elderly neighbor struggling to carry a heavy bag of groceries. Without hesitation, Ibrahim rushed over to help. The man, surprised by the assistance, smiled and said, "May Allah bless you, my son. Not many people stop to help these days." Ibrahim's heart swelled with gratitude, not because of the man's thanks, but because he realized how easy it was to brighten someone's day with a small act of kindness. Inspired by these experiences, Ibrahim decided to be more intentional about serving others. He sat down with a notebook and began to list all the ways he could contribute to his community during Ramadan. He thought about his own strengths and resources, cooking, organizing, and connecting with people. Slowly, a plan began to form. On the first Friday before Ramadan, Ibrahim volunteered at the masjid to help prepare iftar meals for families in need. As he chopped vegetables and packed boxes alongside other volunteers, he felt a deep sense of camaraderie. Each person worked with a shared purpose, their hearts united by the hope of earning Allah's blessings. Ibrahim couldn't help but think, this is what Ramadan is about, coming together to serve for the sake of Allah. One particular evening, Ibrahim met a young boy while distributing meals in the community. The boy's eyes lit up when he received the food, and he excitedly told Ibrahim, "We've been waiting all day for this. Thank you, bhai." The boy's joy brought tears to Ibrahim's eyes. He thought about how often he had taken his own meals for granted, forgetting that for many, even a single plate of food was a blessing. As Ibrahim continued his acts of service, he began to see the ripple effect of his efforts. His friends, inspired by his commitment, joined him in volunteering. Together, they organized a small charity drive to collect clothes and toys for families in need. Ibrahim also began visiting a local shelter, spending time with children and sharing stories about the lessons of Ramadan. The laughter and smiles he received in return felt like the greatest reward. But the most transformative moment came during a late-night dua session in the masjid. Ibrahim had been helping clean up after Taraweeh prayers when he overheard an older man making dua. The man's voice trembled as he prayed, "Ya Allah, bless those who have helped me this Ramadan. I do not know their names, but you do. Reward them abundantly." Ibrahim froze, realizing that the man was likely one of the many people who had received the iftar meals he helped prepare. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "Ya Allah, allow me to be a source of ease for others, no matter how small my efforts may seem." Over time, Ibrahim's acts of service transformed the way he viewed Ramadan. It wasn't just about his personal worship. It was about contributing to something greater, being part of a community, and spreading Allah's mercy through his actions. Every small deed, whether it was helping a neighbor, offering a kind word, or making dua for someone, became a form of worship. By the time Ramadan arrived, Ibrahim's heart was filled with a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. Serving others had become more than a habit. It was now an integral part of his worship. On the first day of fasting, as he broke his fast with dates and water, he made a heartfelt dua. "Ya Allah, allow me to spend this Ramadan in service to you and to those around me. Let my actions be a source of comfort for others, and let this month be a means of earning your pleasure." And so, with every meal he delivered, every smile he shared, and every dua he whispered, Ibrahim discovered the true essence of Ramadan, a time to connect with Allah by uplifting His creation. As Ramadan approaches, let's take a moment to remember the 5 habits that can truly transform this sacred month for you. First, set clear and sincere intentions. They are the foundation of every action. Second, build a daily connection with the Quran, even if it's just 1 page a day. Third, bring presence into your prayers, treating each salah as a personal conversation with Allah. Fourth, cultivate gratitude by recognizing and appreciating the blessings in your life, no matter how small. And finally, prepare to serve others, because Ramadan is not just about personal growth, but about spreading kindness and compassion. These small, consistent steps can make all the difference, helping you enter Ramadan with a heart ready to receive Allah's mercy and blessings. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories and lessons. And before you go, Click on the next video to continue your journey of growth and faith. See you there, inshallah.